Hey everyone, and welcome to Professor and Friends. And we are live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and we welcome you here tonight with a very special guest, Aaron Paris from Switchback Outdoor Safety. We have a great show tonight. We're glad that you are here. And a lot of times at my age, you have to be reminded where you're at and what you're doing. So let me tell you where you're at and what you're doing.
Hey guys, it's Jordan from NSM Overlanding, and you're watching Professor.
I got it. All right, you ready?
I'm Chris with Re-Rover.
I'm Bruiser.
Jeff from Re-Rover.
Walter from Autotronics in West Virginia.
Chris from More Expo.
Chef West.
And you're watching Professor.
And you're watching Professor and Friends.
Professor and Friends.
Professor and Friends.
The Professor and Friends.
Professor and Friends.
Professor and Friends.
Professor and Friends. Enjoy.
I enjoy making that. That's fun. Asking everybody to do a little video clip and putting them in there, and that way I remind myself of what I'm doing, because sometimes I just wake up and I'm like, where am I at? What am I doing? But here we are, live with Aaron, Professor and Friends. Aaron, welcome. Appreciate you being here with us tonight. Well, today we have Aaron Paris out of Lee Summit, Missouri. Over 12 years of public safety experience, 3 years of workplace safety experience, and 16 years of outdoor safety experience. He started Switchback Outdoor Safety, whose purpose is to provide education and equipment for those who desire to take the road less traveled. Aaron, appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. What an intro.
Yeah, well, you got to start off big. You got to start off big or people will leave early, You always order an appetizer right before the big meal. So you're the big meal, and we just had the appetizer. But tell us a little bit about yourself. How do we get to know the man behind the beard?
Well, I've come from a small town in southern Illinois and grew up on a farm, and then landed out in the big city area of Missouri and Kansas City area. And been out here since 2005. And like you said, I was in law enforcement for 12 years, and then just kind of fell into public safety that way. And then I started doing corporate safety and risk control. And I got to update that. Apparently it's supposed to go by fast, because I think I've been doing the corporate safety stuff now for 4 years. And so it's just going by quickly. I just stay on top of that webpage, I guess.
You got more experience than you thought you had. That's impressive. Well, let me ask you, what made you want to start something where you deal with the outdoor world, the Switchback Outdoor Safety? What made you want to delve off into your own business and try to help people deal with the safety issue in the outdoor world?
Well, Mike Fuller over at Adventure Motors and I have been close for a while. Yeah, he was, and got to know him pretty early when you up, and from there we just we're traveling a lot together. And he said, "Hey, I think you ought to put some of this information out there. You got some stuff some people ought to know." And I didn't really feel like I had anything special to give, but he said, "No, I really think you should." So I started out with a website, and I pushed out a bunch of articles and just was trying to give some information for free, just to help people do some different stuff more safely. And
that's cool.
That's really where it started. So it was basically out of the desire for people to, travel and be with their families and enjoy the outdoors and not get hurt. So,
well, do you consider yourself an outdoorsman, an overlander?
For me, I don't know that I've ever really considered myself an overlander. I know there's a lot of sparsing or terms or whatever, but like for me, when I always thought overlanding or overlander, to me it was the far-flung adventures, the guys in the Land Rover Discoveries and Defenders and the Land Cruisers that were traveling all over Africa and circumventing the continents, traveling from Europe all the way down to Asia. And it just, to me, I always felt like that was the big expedition. That was the overlanding that I wanted to at some point in my life, take that long of a trip and just go. And so for me, like your last guest, Dan Gregg, that is to me the epitome. Now, I think I'm more of a long trip or weekend warrior guy.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, I'm out and about a lot and involved in the outdoor world and off-roading and camping and all that. So,
Well, I think that makes up about probably 99% of what we call overlanders or see on social media these days. There is a very small 1% or maybe even less than that who are actually out there living the full-time life. I had Jorge and Jessica on a few weeks back, and then Dan Gregg on last week, and to actually meet them and talk to them and see them in person, and these people are really real. They actually exist. They're out there living the life that a lot of us dream of. It's really surreal a lot of times because put them up on a pedestal, and I just wanted when Jorge and Jessica came into the house, I just wanted to sit there and talk to them and take in just as much as I possibly could, because they're the kind of people that here I am having to get up on Monday and go to work, and they're out. Yesterday they got stuck out in the middle of nowhere for 6 hours and got on the Garmin and sent a message back home for help, and here pulled a skidder up and got them out. And I'm like, man, they do it all the time. You get stuck for 6 hours. It's okay, because you ain't got to be anywhere. It's pretty cool. So, but yeah, I think the weekend warrior thing, I think that makes up a very large percentage of who we are and what we do. But, I wanted to stress that to everyone right off the bat while we're talking about this safety. I talked about Aaron's experience. He is an overlander. He is somebody that actually gets out there and does that. I mean, he's got some super cool pictures of his truck that he's built up, that he's this taco that he takes out and goes different places and does different things. Don't get your information from just the internet. You can't believe everything that's on the internet. Get your information. If you want to know something, ask somebody who has done it, who has experience, and who lives this life. So tell me, Aaron, where should safety be on our list of priorities when we're talking about overlanding? Because a lot of people, it's not really their first thing that they ask. I just got into this. I want to build my rig, or I just got into this. What gear should I need? I just got into this. What do I have to do to be safe? Where should it be on our list of priorities? What do you think?
It's hard to really say. Some people say safety third and all these other, catchy things, but I think I started closing a lot of my articles with plan, prep, explore. And, that's kind of play on PPE, which is the
right
equipment,
Yeah, but something we all hate.
Yeah, we all hate that stuff, Gear Pro and iPro and all that stuff. But to me, I felt like if you're no matter what you have, no matter what equipment you have or what you don't have, if you plan ahead and you prepare for what you have, then go out and explore. I think that the safety portion in those first two components really help. That planning and preparing is probably the most significant part. So I guess in some capacity, I say it's on the front, and then it's throughout while you're doing it. You're making calculated decisions constantly, evaluating your risk throughout your travel. Do I pass this truck on the highway? Do I forge this river? Because maybe it's too deep. Maybe the water's going too fast. Should I hit this mud puddle at 60 miles an hour? Probably not.
No, definitely not.
As you're, it just doesn't stop. I think you're always calculating your risk no matter what you're doing, and I think it's just it becomes a part of what you do.
Right. I think it's a lot of it is you don't even think about it. I mean, you're being a safe individual. You get in your car, you put it in drive, the buzzer dings because you got to put your seatbelt on. A lot of people do that without even thinking about it. A lot of people, carry a weapon and they holster it. They put it in a box or they put it in a safe place without even thinking about it. It's just second nature. You carry things to deal with animals. You carry bear spray. I carry pepper spray with me everywhere I go because you never know what you're going to encounter. So a lot of people do that without really even thinking about it, don't you think?
Yeah, I think there's some people, depending on what their life experiences are, they're more prone to do those things.
Yeah.
It becomes, the OODA loop, which is very common in, public safety and military. It's that observe, orient, decide, and act. And a lot of people, if you're in those kind of professions, you understand that to really deal with something, there's a process to go through that. And so you're constantly observing what's going on around you. You're paying attention to what's, you're orienting yourself to where you are, and then you're deciding what I'm going to do. And then the easiest part is the action of making sure you follow through with what you decide. And it can happen just like that. That whole cycle.
Right.
But I think there are some people that it doesn't come inherently as easy. It's dependent on what we're doing. If you're exposing yourself to something new, you don't necessarily know what the hazards are sometimes. And that's kind of the key. You may think you're being safe, but are you aware of what you're exposing yourself to?
Right. Right. Yeah. And some of that is uncontrollable. You never know what kind of critter is going to come up. You have to be prepared for just about everything. And that's what really comes to mind in my mind about safety, because here we are. I'm taking myself as far away from civilization as I possibly can. That's what I do. That's what I like to do. I want to get away because I work with people every day, and when I have some time, I want to get as far away from people as I possibly can. But in doing that, you're also adding risk. So snake bites, spider bites, falling and hurting yourself, being able to get rescue to wherever you are, or even being able to locate you. You have to think about those things. And all that is with safety. We don't ever go anywhere without an inReach. So, my wife is adamant about, did you bring your inReach? Because she wants to know that she can have contact with the outside world in case something happens to me. Because if something happens to me, she is not trained in a lot of things that I am, and she will not know what to do. I try to help her and teach her, but that's just her mindset. If something happens to me, she's got to have a way to get help. So we've got to constantly be in that mindset of being able to take care of just about anything that possibly could happen. And so I don't think a lot of people really think that way in getting into this lifestyle. It doesn't really set in their mind about all the scenarios that they possibly could get into. And I think that we need to make people aware of that.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think it's awesome what you're doing with your wife because, if you're by yourself, it's a completely different deal. You know what I mean? Like you're sufficient when you're by yourself, but when you're with a spouse or you're riding with other people or you're traveling with a group, there's other considerations. Sometimes I like to tell people, and they always kind of seem surprised about, is when I get ready to go on a trip and I have a group of people that either I'm in charge of or I'm not, and I'm just tagged into, I usually throw in a medical questionnaire. And I say, hey, everybody that's going is filling these out, and they're going to be in this back seat in this folder, and here's mine, and it's filled out too. So fill these out, and then that way, if you have allergies, medical conditions, you're aware of those things before you leave. Then I try to make sure that everyone understands how far away it is to the closest trauma center. How do we get there? What vehicle will be the most convenient? Hopefully, if it's available. Because there's some vehicles, it's like you can't put a 220-pound person in the back of it because they've loaded it full of gear.
Yeah.
How are you going to get this person extracted? What vehicle is the easiest to do that with? Can someone sit in the back with that person and maintain the trauma care while that's going on? Who else can do that? If it's my vehicle that has to be driven, can someone else drive my vehicle? Or have I made it so inconvenient for anyone else to sit in it because I've got it so packed full of stuff that a 6'4" person couldn't squeeze into my little 5'10".
Yeah.
And so, it's things like that you have to really kind of, it seems silly, but yeah, I feel like those are the things I'm constantly thinking about, and I hope others are starting to have those considerations because we are going, out in the middle of nowhere. And as you said, communication is really critical, and that inReach is a great tool. And communication is a two-way street. If I'm sending an information out and no one's receiving it, it's really kind of worthless. And
Right.
people figuring out how they're going to communicate is kind of the key. GRMS, radios are great. Ham radios are great. inReaches are great. Satellite phones are great, but they all have limitations, and they all have places they don't work well, and they work great at. So.
I agree. Communication is key. That's an old saying, but it is definitely a good communication. Let people know where you're going, how long you're going to be gone, and that way, it. A lot of people worry me that are by themselves. You go out on a long trip, you take a hike, you fall and hurt yourself. There's nobody that knows anything about it. So you've really got to think about these things as far as being somebody who puts yourself out in the middle of nowhere or gets out there. Now, one thing that I do want to hit on that we have never covered on any of my shows is weapons and overlanding. And I want to talk about that in just a minute. But right now, I want to hear a word from the sponsor of our show, Artemis Overland. Stand by.
The world changes daily around us. Change is inevitable. It's coming. Many things in life change, but some things do not. They're a rock, a constant, dependable, reliable, and safe. Artemis was founded upon a single idea: experiencing adventure and life outdoors with friends is a life well lived. We're here to provide your needs, to be a good environment for our employees, and to give back to our own community. We don't say this just to hear ourselves talk, or because it sounds good. It's our vision since day one. That's why we have family instead of customers. That's why we give to local and overland charities. That's why we have respect from our vendors, our community, and a mutual respect from every person that walks in our door. Our mission will never change, but our showroom, our website, what we offer to you will always be evolving to reflect who we are and always will be. Overlanders who are committed to serving overlanders, being the best, bringing you the best reliability, service, gear, and friendship. The world may change around us, but we will not, as living this life alongside you as family can never be replaced.
About carrying a weapon. Now, I don't tell a lot of people this. We were talking about this before the show, and you shared with me that you are a former law enforcement. I am a law enforcement officer, and several years ago, Overland Bound came and did a Southeast rally in Arkansas, and they wanted to do a class on carrying a weapon while overlanding. And since when they found out I was a law enforcement officer, they asked me and Mason Berry, who is also into law enforcement, to teach the class. And to my surprise, every single person that was at that rally showed up. I mean, they couldn't even fit all under the place where we were at. I mean, and they had so many crazy questions. Can I carry a gun in the forest? If I see someone who's crazy out checking his moonshine steals, can I shoot him? When can I shoot someone legally? And I thought, you really want to know that? I mean, it's just crazy questions. And, they talked about animals and if they could shoot a bear that was attacking them and different things like that. So tell me, I know you have experience and you teach on this, about carrying weapons when overlanding and how that deals with us and being a safety issue.
Well, I think it's, we're a unique culture. The United States is one of the few last places that you can freely carry a firearm. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a right that's been bestowed on us from founding documents, and I don't back down from that. I think if you to talk to Dan Grack and some other people that travel around the world, this probably sounds very odd to have this conversation. I think in some ways it's almost probably off-putting,
Yeah.
Because that's not even an option, even carrying. I think Dan had a video months, maybe a year or more, where he talked about he had a particular knife or something, and he was concerned that it could have been, a weapon, and it's like, think about those things. Unless you are traveling outside of this country, because we do have freedoms that are not permissible elsewhere.
Right.
And I think, as you know, when you travel there's different rules for different states for legality for having a firearm. There's different rules in national parks. There's different rules in national forests, and knowing the difference could be critical to where you land legally if you were to use said weapon.
Yeah.
There's do people carry handguns, carry rifles, shotguns? Which one's the best? When, like you said, there's the questions I always get shocked by is when can I shoot somebody?
Yeah.
Then, what do I do if I encounter somebody and they're doing something that I'm not necessarily comfortable with? Well, what would you have done if you didn't have a firearm?
Yeah.
For me, it's the means, opportunity, and intent is the key to when you should or shouldn't be engaging with somebody.
Right.
To possibly engage somebody in a pistol fight.
Right.
So, do I encourage people to carry a firearm while traveling? I'm going to be honest. I usually tell people they need to check their heart and see if they in them, one, to be able to discern when it's appropriate to actually use a firearm. If they can't decide that appropriately when they don't have one, they definitely probably shouldn't carry one. And then if they don't know how they would handle having to end someone's life, that's probably not a good idea there either. There's a lot of things that come after the incident that some people, it would be the ending of them emotionally.
Right. Yeah,
So,
emotionally for sure.
yeah. So does that kind of touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's it's always crazy when you talk about that because it's hard for me to understand what goes through people's minds when they open their mouth and the questions come out. But just so everybody knows, every state is different about carrying. But when you carry on a journey, as long as you leave it in your vehicle, almost every state honors that as long as you don't carry it on your person. And as far as shooting somebody, you have to be able to articulate you were in fear for your life. If you cannot articulate that, you're going to be in some trouble. So it's personal protection. It's a defense, not an offense. And so you have to worry about that. I remember watching a long time ago when Lifestyle Overland went up to Alaska. They carried a shotgun with them, and all the stuff that they had to go through to get it through Canada. It was a lot of paperwork and a lot of fear that they didn't even know that even if they had done it right. And so, they approached the border like this thing could be taken from us, even though we are confident that we did all the paperwork right. You never know. And so, like you said, for Dan Grech and for Graham Bell, those guys who are constantly crossing borders, there's no way that they will carry a weapon with them, especially a firearm weapon, because every single time you cross a border, your vehicle could be checked. Everything that you have could be seized. Smuggling comes into play. And so really for those world guys, the world traveler guys, it's not even an option. But for those of us in the United States, you're right. It's one of the very few places where we still have that Second Amendment right to carry. But still, and I'm seeing it even more nowadays, especially with the new administration that's taken over. I'm not going to get political at all, but a lot of states are making their own laws opposed to what federal laws are. So you've got to really be careful from here on out that you do all the right stuff and fill out all the right paperwork and make sure you know where you're going. And it's easy. You could Google just about anything. It'll tell you about the carry laws, which states honor what concealed carry license and which don't. And it's a mess. It really is a mess. But I'm like you. If you're not going to use it, don't carry it. If you don't feel like you can use it to protect yourself, don't carry it. But if it's something that you're like, I travel with a guy and he's got several with him at all times. And, because
talking about,
yeah, he just, he's like, I'm going to protect myself one way or another. I get all of my outdated pepper spray that they're just going to throw away anyway. I always keep it in the car. Pepper spray is a great tool for dogs, any small animals like that, or even bears. You don't want to kill some things if they're not aggressively attacking you, but you can get them away. All they do is smell it, and they want to run. So have all that kind of protection to keep yourself safe.
Yeah, I think if you have concerns being in bear country, I think you're better off just getting bear mace. It's bears run about 30 miles an hour, and if you're carrying a pistol, that's the likelihood of you carrying a 10 millimeter or larger caliber pistol.
Yeah,
it's really probably irrelevant for you to even try to shoot a bear. It's going to really do the damage and the time needed to do anything. And that bear mace creates a cloud. That's Mr. Hayden, he knows. Showed him at Moore, so
yeah, I saw that. that was pretty funny. Now I want to talk about the training. This is really a lot of what people know you for. Is the training that you do. When people mention Switchback Outdoor Safety, it's pretty much all the events that we go to. You're teaching classes. We do have a comment from one of the listeners here that said, "Where would you suggest someone get basic first aid training?"
Yeah, so there's depending on where you are, I'm an instructor for several different groups: American Red Cross, National Safety Council, American Heart Association. Any of those organizations are going to give you the basics of what you need. What I would tell you though is if you're looking at first aid training, there's a difference between first aid and then trauma. And trauma, what will kill you. And I think if you're going to take it seriously to get educated on how to make sure someone stays alive should something serious happen, I would highly suggest to get first aid training, and then I would follow that up with understanding how to do trauma care. And that would fall into, tourniquet usage, be able to do, chest seals, understanding how to use, occlusive dressings, modular bandages. And I've got some stuff we can talk about here in a minute if Joey wants to.
Okay. Well, I want to hit on your classes that you do offer. And I went through these on your website. You have all these classes that are listed. One that you did not have that you have listed is one that you have coming up, and it's the female class. So tell us about that, what you offer, and tell us what you have coming up. I think you have some spots open you want to hit on.
We have actually a ladies off-road recovery training coming up. It's just strictly for women. I think that that was from one of our classes, and guys had their wives come along, and then the wives thought they were just going to sit in the passenger seat, and I didn't let that happen because what good is a team if only one with anything? So, everyone got involved, and by the time it was all said and done, they really enjoyed it, and they got to learn some stuff. They learned trauma care. They learned some basic trauma, how to apply a tourniquet, how to make sure you put on occlusive dressings. We did recoveries. So I've kind of got a couple classes that do a couple days worth of training, and so you might cover those type of topics throughout that. I've got a rough road recovery class we go through all the types of recovery devices, how to pick your load ratings, working load limits, understanding how all that equates to your vehicle, helping everyone understand why you should choose those things so you don't have a catastrophic failure. We have a little bit of trauma care classes that we put on. And then we do group classes and we do individual classes. I've had some solo training that, we don't advertise, obviously. It's usually selects us and says, will you take us out and do some education with us? And, we like to, let them do that. So, yeah, that's one of our classes there. So
cool. Well, one of the ones that you have listed on there is safety and security while traveling. Tell us about this class. I'm interested in this because I am a traveler.
Sure.
I have people say I have happy feet. As soon as I get off work, I'm going somewhere. And so what do you cover in this class, the safety and security while traveling?
Well, we talk about, first of all, we're rolling billboards full of expensive equipment. And, I think Lifestyle Overland a year or so ago had a video where they had their vehicle broke into. They'd stopped in to finally get some showers at a hotel.
They were actually in Arkansas. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think they're on their way to Kentucky or Tennessee. I can't remember which, but
Yeah.
you know, the sad part is these vehicles look expensive. When you outfit them, they look like there's a lot of gear in there that I could take and use. Some of the stuff
Yeah.
can be transferred over to the trades. Some stuff just looks expensive and I can just get online and sell it, or I could use it for myself because maybe I want to have this equipment, for me. And we talk about securing your equipment. You know, if you're traveling in the United States, it's not like you're traveling a third world country, but and there's some places if you choose to stop off, maybe you want to stop off and get a hotel and get showered up because you're on a multi-day trip or a multi-week trip. That fitness gym may not be the best place that you just pulled into. Have you checked the crime areas and that? Have you called the police department and said, hey, if I stop in here, is this a good place to park my vehicle overnight?
Yeah.
I wouldn't park there if I owned that. Well, don't go there,
Yeah.
I've actually, we talk about do you have secondary keys? What happens if you lock your keys in your car? Do you have a secondary key and where do you store it? Have you considered that? Are you traveling with a weapon? Knives, firearms, whatever. And do you know the legality that goes with all those things?
Right.
Happens if you're traveling and the last couple of years we've had people ask questions like, I was traveling through a larger city and it happened to be during a protest or whatever. What do I do? Those are legitimate concerns.
It is.
You're stuck in the middle of something you didn't choose to be in, particularly. So how do you respond and how do you mitigate that so you don't become an issue? It becomes an issue for you. And it's like I said, there's a lot of aspects to those that, again, I don't want to get political, but it does create a security issue for you and whoever you're with.
Definitely, and then, it's second nature to us to want to protect ourselves and our family, and so you become a different person when you put yourself in some of those situations, and you really don't know how you will react until you are in those situations. That's why, as police officers, we're constantly trained all the time, but the normal everyday person who has not encountered any training, you really don't know how you're going to react. So you've got to mentally prepare yourself just as much as possible. So that's a pretty cool class. Now, another one that I saw was the Wilderness Critical Event Preparation. This one enters me because when you put critical event in there, you're throwing me a curve. And so tell me what your mindset is around this class when you teach this class.
I've got a video in there and it starts with this guy, and I like to use videos and incidents that actually occur. And so, the guy that got chased by that cougar, and not the lake, the actual animal,
right?
Yelling at it while he's jogging. We talked about that. That could have been a serious incident. That's jogging along, and all of a sudden he's got one of the most, efficient predators ready to go ahead and get a hold of him.
Yeah. For a long time, it followed him.
Over 30 minutes, I think, if I remember right.
That's crazy.
We have another event we talk about where this couple was hiking through the Appalachian Trail, and they were attacked by a guy with a machete, and it killed one of them. And she was injured. She got away and got the police, and they were able to mitigate that problem. And then there's an incident we talk about where a guy's driving with his Jeep on a shelf road, the brakes go out, and the vehicle rolls over 15 times, and there's a camera on inside the Jeep, so you get to experience what it's like inside that vehicle as it's rolling down this side of the mountain. They both survive, and then you get to hear the conversation at the end. And we kind of talk about that. We talk about have you tabletopped any of these circumstances? A tabletop is you sit around, you come up with wild-eyed ideas of the worst case scenario, and then you say, what would we do? Do we have a plan for that? Do we have the means to do anything about that? Is there anything we can do to make sure that doesn't happen? Is there equipment we necessarily have that's already could be used for something like that? Is there something maybe we ought to consider? It's constantly just playing that what if, but at the same time, I don't want people being so terrified to never go out. I want people to just be prepared and have consideration that, the next turn may not be exactly what we thought it might be. And then, I've already prepared for it. So it's going to be okay.
Right. Well, that's cool. And we have a short video to show you a little bit about the training. So check this out. I love how you cover pretty much everything from personal to vehicle, because that is all inclusive. It's not just you're learning how to protect yourself or your family. You're learning how to deal with your vehicle, get it out of certain situations that you possibly get in, teaching you how to drive so you may not have to get in those particular positions in the first place. Protecting the environment, because you're talking about hooking up winches correctly around trees so you don't damage the environment or the trees. A lot of people think, hey, I'm going to put a winch on here, I can get out of everything. Get some traction boards, I can get out of everything. Well, let me tell you, if you don't know how to use it properly, you may damage your vehicle, you may hurt somebody, or you may hurt whatever you're attached to. So great stuff. I know you've got some classes coming up. You're going to be at Big Iron Overland Rally, not this coming weekend, but next in Kansas. So if you're coming to that, make sure you go by and see Aaron at his booth. He's going to have Midland that's going to be in there with him, and you're also going to be teaching a class there. So I definitely encourage everybody who's going to be there to go by and check out that and come visit that class. Do you know what the class is going to be on? Where you're going to do there at Big Iron?
One of them we're going to talk about recovery pieces, just your recovery equipment, a general once over for some just people that haven't actually maybe just getting into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of really hard to get into detail in short classes. With no on it really doesn't do it any good. So we're going to kind of do a once over on that, and then we're going to talk about some trauma care. I can do a little bit on that in an hour, and so I've got some interesting stuff coming from our manufacturer. And they're going to be providing, I'm supposed to be getting here in a week, and it's some trauma cubes, and they actively bleed, and we're going to be able to stop the bleed.
Oh, cool.
Pretty cool.
Very
so
cool.
It's going to be something neat that people may not get to see very often. So
that's cool. Very cool. So I encourage everybody to do that. These trainings are not just ordinary trainings. You actually get people in the right place to work out scenarios as if they were traveling off road. So I really like the way that you do your classes when people sign up and get to go to actually a full length class. But these short ones you can always get tidbits of information out of that you can always take with you, and that's good. And I encourage everybody to do that at Big Iron in a couple weeks. Do you have any more scheduled throughout the year that you're doing that you can share with us?
I'm hoping to have a advanced recovery school coming up potentially into the summer. So if you're looking for something, keep your eyes open for August, maybe early September. We're looking for a venue right now. That's been the biggest problem over the last year, is just finding locations with COVID and everything that's been going on.
Yeah.
Some of our locations shut down, or we had people that weren't comfortable coming, and we understood that, so we just let it be for the time. And so we've been able to kick it up a little bit more this spring already with a couple individual classes, and then
cool.
the class is going to be a good one. So
cool. Well, let me ask you this: What is your number one pet peeve when it comes to safety? Well, I sprung that one on you. I know you've probably got several, but when it comes to safety, what do people do that it just drives you absolutely nuts?
I think it's just that we're going to jump out and just do whatever. It's to me, I like to look at something really quick and then really figure out what we have.
Yeah.
Jumping out,
assess the situation. Yeah.
Like just jumping out and hooking stuff together without even checking working loads, checking what we're hooking it to. That really kind of bothers me. Probably the other pet peeve I have is, it's the reason we started developing our own trauma kit was everyone's like, I got a tourniquet in my bag. And it's like, well, that's really great, except for it's in your bag instead of on you,
Yeah.
If you get hurt, you get mauled by a cougar or whatever, it's not going to do any good if it's sitting in your car and your backpack that has got all that really cool gear that you bought and it's got 600 Band-Aids in there. It's just one of my biggest frustrations as far as equipment. And then I don't like people buying stuff that necessarily they don't need. I hate.
Yeah.
I would tell people don't buy this if it's something they don't need from me. I constantly am trying to. I'll sell you a 20-foot kinetic rope over a 30 if I think it's more advantageous for you. I just depending on where you're going to travel, what you're going to do. I just don't like people wasting money. And people buy poor gear just because they think they need something.
Yeah. I think probably for me, my number one pet peeve, and I'm actually guilty of it, but I've learned from it, is don't buy a first aid kit and put it on the bottom of everything that you pack in your vehicle. If there's anything you're going to need quick, it's going to be that. And so have it handy. Don't pack it on the bottom and have to dig for it while somebody bleeds out. I mean, just put it in a handy spot. Come on.
Yeah.
If I'm the one bleeding, I'm going to be really mad. I'm just telling you that right now.
Well, and it's part of the reason we came up with this kit bag that we have. The camera's kind of hard to see it. I think you have a couple pictures of this, right, Joey?
Yeah, I
So
got
it goes
pictures.
on your chest, and the whole point of this was it was principally based that it was in your workspace and you didn't have to take it off. You can drive with it. Yeah, there you go. I don't know who that guy is, but he looks
Sexy beast.
Yeah, somebody is. My wife likes him. But it's all right there. And, they do have a pocket should you want to conceal a firearm in the back of it. But inside of it, it's got all the kit stuff you would need. Some of this is some of the stuff as we started to develop these kits over the last couple of years. We actually have new kits coming out. So our current kits are made by North American Rescue and labeled and everything for us. And then now Tactical Medical Solutions, which makes the soft T tourniquet, is now developing and making our kits as of coming up in the next couple of weeks. We'll have a whole bunch of them. They're going to be rebranded. It's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward. I wish I had one here to show you, but I'm going to show you a couple of things that we've got that's unique. These just came out too, so you're going to get to see some stuff that's fairly new.
World premiere, baby.
So some of this stuff is new. This is nothing I've developed. This is from Tactical Medical Solutions. This is the soft T tourniquet. If you had a soft T tourniquet, they were the first to allow it to disconnect on the ends. They're the only ones that disconnect, so you can actually slip it around.
Wow.
Sorry, my camera's a little. I get used to.
Yeah, mine's the same way.
But the new one is got new material, so it slides better for one-handed application. They've also put on a slack indicator now. So if you see, that little red triangle now, Joey, when you pull this taut, okay, and you get enough slack out of this, I'm going to make sure I pull it right so I can show it. All right, so that slack indicator is gone, okay?
Right.
That's now time I can turn the windlass, okay? Because if you got too much slack out here, I could sit here and turn this thing. It's never going to get tight.
Right.
Stop the bleeding. But if I can go ahead and get that slack out of there, then I can start actually turning it and doing its job.
Very
the best
cool.
part about this soft T tourniquet is that it's got a metal windlass. It's not going to break. It's got the side clips on it, and then it's got a triangle. So if you have to transport someone, it's not going to just slip out of these little things.
Right.
So
That's
if you
cool.
drag them on the ground, it ain't coming off. So that's really nice. That's going to be part of our new portion. And then they just came out with this, which this has got HimCon. It's Cheeto Gauze Pro. and it's the Elias modular bandage. Right here. It's
Okay, cool.
Our new trauma kits. We're actually reducing some of the items we have in it because we don't. I've always tried to keep our what you need to a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And this one's a kind of a neat thing. So, literally, you see this? You see how that's not rolling all over the place, Joey?
Mm-hmm. I love that.
These dressings, right? They just roll over the place. A little bit of Velcro here, and so it keeps it from rolling out and getting filthy.
I love that. Love that. I've never seen that before. That's like the greatest thing ever. I think you might have locked up on me. So we're talking with Aaron here about this. We're going to get him back in just a minute. Bad connection, but he was showing us a few things in his chest pack that they've got coming up that they're putting in their kit. And so, if you've never carried a chest pack, for those of us who are in law enforcement, used to everything carried around our waist. We would have a duty belt, and we would carry all of our handcuffs, our gun, pepper spray, taser, all that stuff on our waist. But now with the new vest that we have everything is on our chest, and so it is so much easier to carry. It's in a perfect spot. Everything is right there where you need it to be, and so it's all handy, and it's really out of the way. If you have everything on your chest. And so it's a really cool idea to have this chest pack. It keeps everything off your hips. You really don't have a lot of weight on things because you're always walking on your hips, and so it puts everything on your chest, so everything is weighted on your shoulders, which makes it so much easier for you to carry, so much more convenient. They also have a woman's pack that's a little smaller. That's like this. This is Aaron's wife and his cute little baby right there. And so they have a woman's pack that hangs a little lower, and so everything is right there exactly where you need it, and so it just makes it where it is perfectly attached, and so you are always there, and it's always there where you could get to it. I'm gonna send Aaron another invitation to try to come back. He said he lost connection, and so I'm gonna send him another invitation so maybe he can come back on here. Here's a picture of the tourniquet that we use. This is the same one that I use every day. Stops the bleeding. It's a perfect way, very lightweight, something that you can carry very easily, and it's just something that you could easily carry with you anytime that you go anywhere. And I believe we have Aaron back with us, and so cool. Oh, now you're sideways on me. Turn your camera the other way. There we go. Perfect. That's all right. Hey, that's technology, man. That's something that we don't specialize in. That's not our specialty, so we just have to deal with it.
So anyway,
just have to deal with it.
Talk about this. So
Yeah,
this
the gauze
all over the place, and it's got a little bit of Velcro, so
it
stays, and so it doesn't filth up your bandage. And
I love it.
In this, it actually has a coagulant dressing inside of it.
Wow.
And so you actually would pull this out. You would then stuff that into the wound. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And once you keep pulling that out, you pull out as much as you need, right? And it just keeps coming. So once you've stuffed that in, then you're going to have to cover it, right, and apply pressure. And that's where this little pressure cuff comes in. So you're going to actually apply that over the top of the wound, and that's going to apply that pressure to that once you've put that coagulant bandage.
That's
in.
very cool.
So that's going to
very
be
cool.
That's
all in one.
So that's pretty cool. So
I love it. What do you think is the biggest problem that we have as far as safety goes? What do you think in the overlanding outdoor world? What do you think is the biggest problem that we have, whether it's personal or vehicular, as far as safety goes?
I think it's overconfidence. And I think
Yeah.
it's overconfidence in both. I think it's overconfidence in our driving ability sometime. I think it's our overconfidence in our equipment. I think we go out and buy all this equipment and we think that's going to be what's actually, fixes the problem. And then nobody takes the time to educate themselves on how to use it appropriately and safely.
Yeah.
Not understanding equipment's limited, limitations is an issue. So I think all those things really come down to overconfidence in either our own abilities or our equipment's abilities. So
Yeah, I agree. So switching gears, in season 3 of doing this, we're kind of talking about the best trip ever. Now you sent me some photos, and I wasn't able to get those up here, so I don't have those. But I know you're a descriptive guy; you can tell us all about it. But our theme for season 3 is best trip ever. So I want you to share with us, because you do this. You've been on trips. You're going on trips in the future, like we talked about. Tell us some of the best trips you've ever been on and why they were some of your best overlanded trips.
So all of my trips have involved my wife, all my favorite trips. And it's not her favorite thing. So like, it's kind of special that she is there, because it means something to me that she's there.
Yeah.
It's pretty special to me that she wants to enjoy God's creation with me and spend that opportunity exploring and what my passion is. And so I think one of my favorite, and all of our long multi-week trips, she's been pregnant in some capacity.
Oh, wow.
Boys 7, 5, and 3. And they literally all of them have been on a journey before they were ever born. And probably, so one of them, she was probably 7 months pregnant, and we drove from here all the way down through Arizona. Then we went all the way to Sequoia National Forest, and that was probably one of my favorite trips. I mean, I'd never experienced Sequoia before, and just being in the presence of such a huge natural, tree, and just, I mean, it's enormous. I couldn't get past it. We also stopped off the Grand Canyon, which I hadn't been there in years. So that was kind of a nice long getaway. I mean, that was probably about 12 days. The ground out there is so different. It's real spongy. And so driving out there and traveling on the national forest there was really kind of a neat experience to drive along these trees. And then you go to some of these that have just been completely cut off when they were foresting it. And it's just kind of a really neat experience to be out there. Overland Bound, he had his first couple seasons, he had camped in a couple places, and I was like, I'm going to go there. I want to see that. And, that's what we did. I kind of just plotted out a whole couple week trip out of it, and it was really great fun. My wife, she rooftop tented it for all those nights, and then you kind of reward her at the end with a nice little bed and breakfast. And she was like, I think I'd rather be back in the tent. And I was like, I think we won. That was kind of
wow.
Kind
of, that's a win. That's a win for sure.
And probably one of my other favorites, that was different. That was just her and I, and that was just a good trip. Just having just the two of us go out and do that. My other favorite trip was kind of an early trip with Adventure Motors and Mike and Lev and their families. And so my wife was at the time, I think, 8 months pregnant, and we had 2 kids. And so
wow,
we were out for, I think, almost 15 days, and we circumvented all the way to Colorado, and we went through Colorado Springs, then went out towards Grand Junction, and then we went down to the Tavaguachi Trail. We didn't see a person the whole time we were off road for numerous days. And some of their video they still have to this day is from that trip because it was so desolate. There's just nobody around us. It was just one of the most beautiful, serene experiences. It's one of my favorites. I love 2-track, something that's barely traveled, where you're just out there. You're a couple hours away from anybody, and it's just that's the interesting part about the United States is they're like, well, you can't really get that remote. Well, you can. It's just when and where can you do it? It's kind of the opportunity. Some places shut down through the winter and stuff like that. But There's some really remote places, and they're just some of the most serene things you can experience. And doing it with friends and family, I don't think there's anything better for me. So.
It truly makes some memories. Truly makes some memories. It's and I plan a lot of my trips like you mentioned earlier. I get on social media, and when I see somebody post a picture of a place, I found out where that's at, and I put it on a list, and I want to go there. That's where I want to go. I've never been overlanding out in California. It's just so stinking far to get there. I've just never had enough time to actually take to get there and get home, much less spend a few days there. So that's definitely one of the places I got to
There's
go.
a funny story to that. Okay. So we talked about, we talked about traveling the United States is not like going to another country, but I would argue if you go to California, it is much like entering another country.
Yeah.
When you enter into California, I don't know if you know this or not. I had been to California before, but I flew. Okay.
Yeah,
So
me
we
too.
were driving through, and we had to stop, and we were stopped at a checkpoint. This checkpoint was to make sure that we were not bringing in any invasive species, plants, fruits, vegetables, and literally, I'm traveling across country. Of course, I got food in my vehicle, so I'm not like admitting TV or anything or on air that I was traveling and smuggling food, but they didn't check, and I didn't really disclose. So honestly, whatever happened. But I just thought those are the most unique thing to have to have it.
Almost like a border crossing.
It was a border crossing. What are we doing here? I looked at my wife. I'm like, this is crazy. So away we went. So.
Wow, that's really neat. And I'm like you. I've been to California a couple times, but every time it's been flying. I've never actually drove there. So that would be interesting. That would be interesting. Now we're kind of coming up on the end, but I do want to make sure everybody knows Aaron does have a website, switchbacksafety.com. He does have all of his classes that you can get more information on. He does have a site where he does sell some items like his chest packs. And I was telling everybody while you disappeared there for a minute that you do have those for the ladies as well. So what's the difference between the chest packs for the men and for the ladies?
I kind of tease one's for the men and one's for the ladies, but honestly, the smaller one's probably just for smaller frame people. And I'm not a very big guy. I'm 5'10". I weigh about 185 on a great day, sometimes 180 or 189 to 195 if I let myself get away. But the smaller one I use a lot for when I'm running or hiking. But the bigger one's just a little wider. And so I think it appeals if you want to carry a larger firearm, if you want to pack a few other things in it. I put trail equipment in there as far as marking stuff. I've also got a few other, like a multi-tool. There you see I keep my Midland radio. It's all that stuff is right there in my workspace. I don't have to go back to a car to get it. If I was to go walk off from my vehicle to go look at something and something was to happen, I have all my gear there to be self-sufficient for as long as I need. And and all that stuff fits in both. So I made sure when we picked them, it's and all that's made in America. It's actually made in Missouri by a company called First Spear, and it's designed by a company called Hill People Gear out of Colorado. And all of our recovery gear is made in the United States and Texas. We're real particular. The new Rise here from Tactical Medical Solutions, we didn't get to talk about it, but it's made in Kansas City by a company called Alpha Point. It's a nonprofit. They employ the blind. So we're really big into making sure who we do business with is here in the United States. Not that there's anything wrong with elsewhere, but I feel like sometimes you got to take care of your own first. So
yeah, exactly. Do you make your own first aid kits?
So our first aid kits are also sold. We use the Hill People gear there. Those are also going to be put together now by Tactical Medical Solutions. Those have all been going to be rebranded again, but that bag is the same bag you would get, and it's got a kind of a Molly Pals connection on the back, and you hook it up to different stuff, so it works really well. But that's going to be kind of your boo-boo kit. They kind of hey, I got a scrape or a cut or a burn. Those are the things that are going to be in there. So
okay, cool. Well, I want to remind everybody that Aaron does have social media. He is on all the platforms: Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Switchback Outdoor Safety. Any last words you want to give to us? Any more advice other than come out to your class that you're going to have at Big Iron?
One, I want to tell everyone that's, kind of perpetuated us to keep going over the last couple of years. I want to say thank you to them. The fact that I'm on a show with the professor, I don't really feel like I'm qualified to be on here when you have the people you have on here, Joey. You're doing a fantastic job, and it's a lot of fun to see the guests you have. And I hope
Thank you.
everyone is letting you know that, because it's a lot of fun to see people in the Midwest really taking off with this and getting their foot in the door. Like Moore and down at Natural State for the Rendezvous. This is a good area for exploration. And make sure you're visiting Artemis and Adventure Motors and Midland Radio and all these companies right here in the Midwest. And if you want to learn something, come find us. We'd be happy to teach you. If you've got a question on recovery gear, email or call me. And just thank you again, Joey, for having me on. And it's been a lot of fun. So
it has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you coming on, and guys like you, everybody has their niche at what they're good at, and you're good at this. And I wanted to have everybody on here so they could learn, because that's leaders are learners. And if we want to do this, we need to be knowledgeable about what we do. We need to want to protect ourselves, our vehicles, the environment. I mean, that is what it's all about. Going out and having a good time, making memories, but being safe at the same time. And so this is a big deal. It may not be one of the most popular topics, but it's a necessary topic.
Yeah.
It's something that we have to make ourselves learn. It's kind of like staying in shape. The older we get, the harder it is. But it's something that we need to do. Plus, you're a cool guy, and I like to have cool people on here, and so I think it worked out well. Well, hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you for taking time out of your day. You had 1,000 places that you could be, but you came here, and I appreciate you, Aaron, for coming on here with me. Make sure that you live a life that you've always dreamed of. Don't sit at home because you're scared to do something. Get the knowledge that you need, learn how to do it, and get out there. Don't be afraid to go, because there's people out there that can teach you how to live this life better than you've ever dreamed of. Make sure you leave it better than you found it. Love one another. And Professor out. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate you.
Bye.
And we are.